Taking your next step can be challenging. There are a lot of things that can get in the way. You can be uncertain about what step to take. You can look and see all the possibilities and opportunities that are out there, and you might choose to decide to go that way, or be worried about being afraid of taking the step, or what are the obstacles that might get in your way. All of those things are things that we have to address when we consider our next step. We're going to discuss the conversation that we've had this week around the next step, our discoveries of the week, and more on this edition of today's Antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Watching you were into it again today.
It just, it's one of those things that like anytime you hear something over and over and over and over and over again, it starts to stick in your head. So I was, for some reason, hearing it over and over and over and over in my head today. I'm not sure why.
Okay. It's probably because this is the third time we've run through this. So yes, we are recording yet another episode. Tom and I, once a month on Friday morning, have a conflict. And, I'm going to jump right into my celebration, Tom, because I'm going to celebrate the fact that we have the technology that makes it possible for us to be able to record these episodes and still make them as fresh as if they were live.
I like that. That's a good celebration.
Thank you. What's yours?
My celebration is that, what is my celebration? Today's Friday.
Today's Friday.
It's Friday. But I am going to celebrate the fact that, struggling with that. Sorry. I usually can figure out what I'm celebrating. I had one, and I was like, nah, I don't want to do that.
I'm going to move forward then. I'm going to read from the book. I'm just rocking right on through this, baby. So critics and naysayers will greatly slow, if not halt, any progress towards building your vision if you allow them to. And I think that applies to what we're talking about with regard to taking the next step, because I'm often worried about what people will say and what they will think. And as we've been going through this week of talking about the next step and the various aspects of that, I think behind all of it has been the fear and afraid part of it. And we talked yesterday about the idea of fear and being afraid. And you pointed out that usually is being connected to the results. And I suggested yesterday that today you coach me around that, because I connect the fear and the being afraid to the results. Okay. So do you want to try to help me through that?
Yeah. Can I first do my celebration?
Oh, you finally got one. I padded for as long as I could.
Well, I got one when you started talking. It was like, I'm going to celebrate the fact that I get to coach you again today. One of my favorite, and I think probably your least favorite things that we do on this show occasionally. Usually it's not planned. Usually we kind of walk into it, or you walk into it.
Well, we kind of walked into it yesterday, but we had a time constraint.
Correct. That's fair. Fair to say.
All right, so go ahead, Tom. And by the way, part of the reason why we do this, one, it's educational, and it's probably helpful because I may say or do things that you go, oh, I know that feeling, or I know that experience. But also, Tom and I coach a lot of people through our Renegade Success Network. So this is an opportunity to get a feel for how coaching is. And I can tell you this is unscripted. I have no idea where it's going to go. I know at some point I will want to just like shrink into the floor, but I will hang on for as long as I can. And when I start going like that with my hair, putting my hand through my hair, you'll know that I'm super uncomfortable.
It is so funny that you said that. I was going to be like, all right, so the tell will be, there's one of two. Bob will either deflect and try to change the subject, or he runs his hand through his hair. And then we know that we have probably hit the point by which we might want to move forward and share our discoveries of the week and wrap up. So,
all right, so let's get to it.
All right. So the conversation is around the fear of taking the next step.
Mhm.
And yesterday, I think, and I'll try to tee this up again, even though you just did. So your concern is that you associate the fear with the results. That
Yes,
if I
my
call
fear
in,
is if I don't do the right thing,
okay,
I will not get the results that I need to get, whether it's monetary, whether it's number of people attending an event, whether it's my team following my instructions. I don't know another way to market other than the result.
okay. So the one of the key questions is the fear, I would imagine, is around it being the right thing, correct?
Well, I guess the fear is more around it being the wrong thing.
Okay,
It's the same. It's two sides of the same coin.
correct. So when you think about that, what is the fear about it being wrong?
People will think that I don't know what I'm doing. They'll think I'm an idiot. They won't respect me. They won't appreciate me. They won't want to do business with me. They will basically shun me.
That came awful easily.
It did.
So my question is,
and I almost put my hand to my head right there.
I bet. So what I would ask then is, one, can you control how they look at you or how they feel or think or act around you?
I cannot. I know that, but I want to.
Okay. That's fair. I mean, I think we all want to, right? We all think we want to do the right thing and not be seen as having somebody say, well, why would you have done that? That was the wrong thing to do.
Right.
And I think that statement in and of itself is a judgment on the results, not the action. Correct? Because when we take the action, it's kind of like a pitcher who, after they gave up a home run because they threw a curveball, says, I guess I should have thrown, if I'd only thrown a fastball.
Or I'll never throw a curveball again.
Or I'll never throw a curveball again because that, in this situation, because it didn't work this one time. And instead of thinking about it as, I just threw the best pitch I could throw. And as it turns out, the results that the person got, they hit a home run. That doesn't mean that every time you throw that same pitch that the person batting is going to hit a home run. The results are going to change every time you do it. And so if we can't control the results.
But I want to.
I understand that. What if you
need to?
So you have a need to control something. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, having control over something would certainly make it easier to take the next step. Yes, okay. Because I'm going into the unknown. It's like going into a room without lights. If I have a flashlight, I can at least see a little bit of it. It would really be nice if I could turn the light switch on. But going into a dark room with nothing, I don't know what's in there. I don't know if, I'll get electrocuted because there's wires hanging down. I don't know if someone's waiting to hit me over the head with a bat. I have no idea. And I would say taking the next step for me, when it matters to me, feels like going into that dark room. Okay. And what you're kind of saying, what I hear you saying, to use that analogy, is, yeah, you just got to go into the dark room. And
well, you have to choose to do that, correct? And then, because you can't determine the results. When that pitcher said, okay, I think I'm going to throw a curveball, they had no way to know what could happen. There's a lot of things that could have happened. They could have struck the person out. They could have grounded out, could have flied out. There were lots of other variables, lots of other things that could happen, all of which we will never know until we do it. So if you never choose to walk into a dark room, you will never know what's inside of there.
Right.
That fair?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And maybe ignorance is bliss, maybe. Although the other side of that is, what are you missing because you didn't take that step?
Right.
And so I think that one of the things is celebrating the fact that you did it. Getting to the point of saying, hey, you know what? I know this was something that was difficult because I was worried about the result, and yet I did it. And then based on that, you can celebrate, I did the result, I did the action, not the result that I got. So if you never step into the dark room, you'll never know what the possibilities could have been. It could have been the absolute right move, or you could determine it to be the wrong move, which is why I prefer not to use right or wrong. It's just a move, so that we get focused on taking the action rather than the results that are just a judgment on the action. So if you think about that, could you get to the point where you could celebrate that you took whatever it was, no matter what the results are?
I think that's what I need to get to. And we were talking about a personal example in my life before this. And you said, how did you celebrate that action you took? And I said, I hadn't. And you rightfully said, it's a pretty big step you took.
Sure.
I didn't recognize it as that. I know it was a big step, but I'm more worried about the results in that situation.
Correct.
Because
which you can't control. Correct.
To my mind, the only way that step was a big step is if it gets the result I want. If it doesn't get that result, yes, it's a big step, but it wasn't the right step.
Well, I don't know. Why wouldn't it be the right step? How can you tell? Can your results change?
If it achieves the desired result.
Can results change?
Yes.
Okay. So it's possible that this is just the first step to the results you desire, not the ultimate step to the results you desire. Is that possible?
Yes, that's possible.
So that by taking the first step and walking into the room, you might be like, okay, hey, I did that. What happened? Okay, this is what happened. I bumped my knee. That wasn't so great. What might I do differently? And then you go through the lessons learned, which if you have questions about that, go back and listen to last week's episodes where we talked about lessons learned. And then you can figure out, okay, and yet I never would have known. So maybe the next time you step out and you say, how could I avoid doing that? What are the possible opportunities or options that I could consider? Is that fair?
Yes.
So what would they be?
In that scenario I was telling you?
No, in the scenario of stepping into the dark.
Oh, into the dark room? I mean, I guess, get a flashlight.
Okay. That's one.
Find
What's
out
another?
if there is a light switch in there.
Okay.
Look for the light switch. Go stand in there as quickly as possible and get acclimated to the darkness, because after 30 or 60 seconds, I'll be able to see more clearly.
Okay. Anything else?
Ask someone else if they've ever been in the dark room.
Okay. What else? Anything else?
No, I think that's my list for now.
Could you turn off the lights in the outer area that you're at so that your eyes do acclimate to darkness before you take that step?
Yes, that's a good one.
Okay, so now you have options, right? So you've taken a step, you got results. They weren't the results you expected. Yet your larger results was really to figure out what's in the room, I would imagine, correct?
Sure.
All right. So then you take your next step. Which one would you choose? Of all of those that you just listed, which one would you choose?
Get a flashlight.
Okay. So you go out and get a flashlight, and how does that change your next step?
I should be able to see the obstacles more clearly and see what's in there better, not perfectly, but better.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
So I would say that one of the things to think about is should. Doesn't mean that you will.
Right.
And the flashlight has limited capacity.
Right.
So you won't be able to see everything. There is a good chance that you would avoid with a flashlight hitting your shin on whatever it was you hit it on. Is that correct? Fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. So you can move beyond the first step that you didn't get the results is take another step and you would likely get different results. Is that fair?
Yes.
All right. So then you go in. So let's say you do that. You turn on the flashlight, you walk in, and you see a box in the corner.
Now I need to figure out, do I want to open the box or not open the box?
Correct.
So that would be a potential next step.
Yes. And at what
that
point?
I wouldn't have seen had I not taken the first step.
Correct.
Or the second step.
If you open that box and it's a diamond, a huge diamond that nobody else is around or owns, or it's your house and it's sitting there, that might be a good next step, right?
Yeah.
would the results be different than the first result you got?
Yes.
So could you imagine that in that case, the results don't necessarily matter as a judgment. They just matter as a learning opportunity to figure out what next step you take. Is that fair?
Yeah, I like that idea. And I'm warming up to it as you talk to me through this with this example.
So I think the one thing I would take away is that, yes, we're afraid of the results. And I would offer that one of the key things is the results can change based on new knowledge, information, or perspective. Your new knowledge was you bumped your knee and you didn't like that. So I don't want to keep going because I don't want to bump my other knee or shin. So I learned and I took a different action. You went and got a flashlight.
Right.
And now you didn't bump your knee and you discovered other things that would require potentially, what have I learned and what are the next steps that I want to take? And maybe one of the next steps would be, rather than just going over and opening the box, is using the flashlight to find the light switch.
Right.
So that you can see more, because there might be a tiger laying next to that box or a snake that you really don't want to see, but you're not seeing with your flashlight.
Ugh.
So I guess that my thought is, can you see how that while the results are important and matter, they are also just a tool to figure out what the next step is, not a judgment on the step that you currently took.
I see that now in a way I did not see at the beginning.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thus ends. It wasn't quite Playhouse Renegade.
I was going to say, I was almost going to go with the Renegade Success Network players, but it didn't feel right because that would imply that we scripted this and we really didn't.
Correct. So I think that's just something to think about as you're thinking about your next step, and your fear of taking it is, if it's based on the results, which typically it is, then just think of it as the current results. And then when you take your next step, the results are likely going to change. So focus on the action.
I'm going to shift a little bit, Tom, just because I can. I want to talk about the coaching for a second, because we gave a good example of coaching. Notice when Tom was coaching me, he wasn't telling me what to do. He wasn't saying you're wrong, you're right. He was asking me questions and trying to help me uncover my truth, my knowledge, experience, perspective, what was real for me. And I think that's one of the misconceptions I hear with people about coaching, that they think that the coach is going to tell them what to do. I know you don't, and I don't tell people what to do. Usually it's a discussion like that where it's like, let's try to figure out what's going on here. Yeah. What is the obstacle, and let's better understand it. And you can see through that discussion with Tom that I got more clarity around what was really rattling around in my head, and that Tom really just asked questions and facilitated that opportunity for me to look at my knowledge outside of where I was. Is that a good way to describe it?
Yeah, I think so. And I also think that there are times, to be fair, there are times when people have said to me, I'm not really sure what to do. What would you do? And I might share what I might do, but I would also share at that same time, we have different knowledge, experience, and perspective. Like the fact that I thought about, like I said, when you had run out of things that you could consider, I had offered one more. That was like, you could turn the lights off where you are and get your eyes acclimated first.
Right.
It's an option. I'm not saying whether that's, again, right, wrong, or indifferent. It's just another thing that I could come up with that you at that point weren't able to, and that I could share as, here's something else you might want to, you could consider. Not that that's what you have to do.
Right.
So as we shift away from that, do you want to share, do you have what your discoveries of the week are, or your discovery of the week?
I think my discovery of the week was how deep-seated my being afraid can embed itself, and being afraid because I'm worried about the results. And I'm thinking about now, if I don't worry about the results, kind of takes the fear out of it.
Because you can't determine it, right?
Right, exactly.
You don't know what the results are
I took a step. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Oh, well, next step. And fortunately, most of us are able to figure out next, a step and then another step. They kind of, once you start moving, they kind of fall into place, I find.
Well, because you're different, right? As soon as you've taken the step, what's real for you is no longer what it was before you took the step.
Right.
You now understand that, okay, here's something that doesn't have all the information. You just have more than what you have. When you stepped into that room, you didn't know that there was something there that you were going to whack your shin on.
Right.
When you went to take your next step and you had your flashlight, you were like, okay, I need to first figure out, like, what's that thing I whacked myself on? How big is it? And I want to make sure I don't do it again.
Yes.
And I think that if we just see each of these steps as a part of the process, not as the end result, that you're going to walk in that room and find the diamond just by walking in the room and feeling around for it with no other things that could possibly happen.
Right.
And it goes a little bit with what the story I shared yesterday of the official who the decision to make the call they see is the first step. The results might be somebody yells at you. The results might be, I don't know what to do with it next. So I'm going to do with whatever I think. And then I can go back and figure out and learn whether that was the right next step or not. And I can still celebrate the fact that I was able to blow the whistle on a call that I was certain that I saw, even though I didn't have all the information for the next step.
Right.
And that was okay, because that would give me an opportunity to take another step, whether it is deemed correct or not, right or wrong. It's just another step that will allow me to say, well, what I came to learn was that wasn't the appropriate step given the situation. Right. And now I can move forward.
Okay. Is that your discovery, or do you have? I
have a different one.
Okay. Go ahead.
So I was thinking about this Thursday, I think. Maybe it was before Thursday's show. They all run together anymore.
They do.
And, I think when people are trying to figure out a step, what's the thing they typically do?
They worry about being wrong.
Okay. What's a tip? Like, if you're a type A, what do you tend to do when you have a decision in front of you and you're trying to figure out your next step? Okay. Is there something else? Really, type A, what do they do?
I got.
All right, I'll help you out. They put together their list.
Oh, correct? Yeah. The pros and cons list. Yep. Pros and
cons list. And what, to me, the challenge with the pros and cons list is, what if the pro is only one? The cons is, and if you're somebody who's worried about the results, who can easily come up with all the list of things they're afraid of that might happen if they take this step, your con list is going to be super long, correct? Yeah. And that may keep you from doing it, because you look at it and you're like, well, I've only got 1 or 2 pros and I got 10 cons, even though the cons might be small, might not have as much of an impact, yet the list is longer. So my discovery was, what if those lists were, here are the opportunities and the obstacles in the 2 choices.
Right.
And so that I can start to see, okay, is this an obstacle that I might be able to overcome? Or how could I figure out how to overcome it? And it doesn't give it the negative connotation, the pros and cons, negative or positive. Like, to me, that's almost like, if one list is longer, that determines my choice, no matter what is on the list. And so I just think that as you start to think about it, if you thought about it as, what are the opportunities it presents and what are the obstacles that might be standing in the way? And as I shared yesterday, is that with every opportunity, there are going to be obstacles, and with every obstacle, there are opportunities. And so that kind of levels the playing field of, how do I evaluate this next step that I might take?
I like that. That's nice.
I don't know. Just thought. It's a discovery from a week talking about the next step. So we would love to hear any of the discoveries you have. There will be a post inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group that just says discoveries of the week. It can be about what you've discovered about taking the next step, or it can be about something else you discovered this week. And please feel free to share those other discoveries, because we know that while we are having the conversation about taking the next step, there's a lot of other things going on for people that they're trying to figure out. And your discovery might be really beneficial to their discovery and ability to take the next step. So please feel free to go inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group and share that information. And if you are curious about the process that we just went through, what Bob and I have defined as a laser solution session, and would think that might be valuable to you, just reach out to us and you can become a part of our Renegade Success Network, where that is available to members that they can sign up for unlimited of those, so they can figure out their next step and move forward more quickly. Please feel free to go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com or connect with Bob or I, and we'd be happy to share further information about how you can become a member of that group. So with that, we wrap up another week, a great week talking about next steps, which I think is fascinating. And I'm really excited about what we're going to have a conversation with next week. Do you want to give a quick preview of that, Bob?
Yeah, we're talking about redefining success. So you take that next step, and now we have to talk about what success looks like. And it's not the big success at the end of the rainbow. We're talking about that next success, which relates to what we were coaching around today.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for being a part of our show. We look forward to seeing you inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group or as a member of our Renegade Success Network. And we will definitely see you on Monday, 8 a.m. Eastern time, for our next edition of Today's Antidote. Have a great day and a great weekend.
Hey, embrace the renegading you. You are worth it. I promise.
Anything else for them to do?
No, that's all.
That's all. All right.
Yeah.
That's a good statement for the week ahead, the weekend ahead.
Yeah. There you go.
All right. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for listening to Today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.